Welcome to this lesson called Real Estate 101. In this lesson, we'll review the 7 major competencies every realtor needs to run a highly effective and profitable business. This lesson is simply an overview of the key competencies. We'll dive deeper in upcoming lessons. So let's get started. So here are the 7 core competencies I believe every realtor needs to master in order to have a successful and profitable real estate career. They are marketing, clients, contracts, product knowledge, contract to close, problem solving, and getting to yes. As you launch your real estate career, your focus should be on these 7 areas. And by mastering these 7 areas, I can promise you that you will have a wonderfully fun and profitable real estate career. So let's get started looking at the first one. So marketing. When we talk about marketing in real estate, you're really talking about marketing yourself, and the other option is marketing a property. So marketing, of course, is a key competency in real estate. Marketing involves so many things. It comes down to your plan, your strategies, and your daily execution. As a newly licensed realtor marketing yourself, you'll discover that there are endless options for marketing yourself. A few examples of these are internet leads, geographic farming, sphere of influence, open house events, other types of events, circle prospecting, social marketing, niche marketing, foreclosures, relocations, investors. You can see that the options really are endless. You'll decide who you want to market to and then determine how to market to them with an end goal of getting clients under contract and taking them through the contract to close process. What you choose should depend on what you think you'll enjoy. We all know that if you set out to market in a way that's uncomfortable, unnatural, and not very much fun, the likelihood of you following through on that is pretty low. But on the other hand, if you choose to market yourself in a way that's more natural, where you can work in your own authenticity and have fun, you're more likely to stick to that plan. So as a new realtor, how do you know what you're going to enjoy if you've never done it before? At Minnesota Real Estate Mentors, we recommend that you focus on 2 to 3 strategies, or what we call pillars. Generally, new agents tend to thrive in marketing within these 3 areas: social media, sphere of influence, and open house events. The advantage to these 3 pillars are that they tend to be low cost or no cost ways of building a business, as well as these things don't require a ton of specialized knowledge. But again, marketing yourself is your choice. That's the beauty of this business. You have the freedom to do the things your way within state laws and the Realtor Code of Ethics, of course. The other type of marketing that you will need to master is marketing listings. So the difference here is marketing yourself, you're developing your brand. When you're marketing a property, it's really marketing that specific property and home. Marketing listings is different, of course, than marketing yourself, as the house is the focus instead of you. There are many ways to market listings. You can door knock, you can circle prospect, you can cold call, you can hold open houses, social media, making sure you have great pictures, yard signs, and so much more. Generally the new agents that we've mentored oftentimes start out with buyers as their first few clients. But keep in mind, listings are great for getting more listings. So in upcoming lessons, we'll teach you more about the difference between marketing and prospecting and how to blend your efforts for a really effective marketing campaign. Next, let's talk about clients. Of course, if you have no clients, you really have no business, right? So it's important for you to get that first client as soon as you can. So I think there's really 4 elements to focus on as you're developing your core competencies in working with clients. Those would be developing rapport, active listening, helping a client move to a decision, and trust. And these are nuanced kinds of things that certainly can be taught to you, but the implementation and your own personality really reflect the way that you will work with clients. When we talk about developing trust and helping clients move to a decision, everybody is so different. Every person is so different. Every person makes decisions so different. In fact, 54% of people would say that they need time to make decisions. And so developing the knowledge related to that is just going to take time. It's going to take experience. And that's why getting out there and putting yourself out into the world of real estate, whether it's through your sphere of influence, whether open house events or on social media, the more conversations that you can have about real estate, the more you start to understand the nuances of what it takes to really present a great client experience. All right, let's talk about contracts. Did you know that the Minnesota Association of Realtors has over 40 contracts that we are expected to be knowledgeable about? That's a lot, right? And so the main one that you'll be using, whether you're representing a buyer or you're helping a seller, is the purchase agreement. And we'll be giving you some great training on the purchase agreement later on in the course. But the contracts really break down into three categories, and those categories are representation forms, and then the forms and addendums related to the purchase agreement, as well as disclosure forms. And so your job is to get as knowledgeable as you can about the forms that are involved in either listing a property or helping a buyer purchase a property. So you want to be intentional about developing expertise about not just the purchase price, but all of the terms and the things that go into helping a client with those forms. So forms are an important piece of our 7 core competencies. The next core competency we have is product knowledge. And of course, if you're selling something, you need to know a lot about what you're selling, right? And so typically in real estate, we're selling properties, whether it's just a lot without a home. We have a license to sell commercial, residential, all throughout the whole state of Minnesota. So as a competent realtor, you need to know and understand your product, which can be really challenging because homes in South Minneapolis have a significantly different value than North Minneapolis, and new construction might have a very different value than resale homes. And so you need to learn things like the style of home. Is it a rambler or a 3-level split, a 4-level split? What are lookout windows? There's so much to learn. The MLS data fields that are input fields for displaying on the MLS, there's probably 400 of them. And so as you're learning to sell, you need to be knowledgeable about your product. So you need to be able to understand the structure issues in a home and the mechanicals. How do you determine square footage and foundation? If you see a crack in the concrete, is that a bad thing? Do you need to worry about that? All of those different things. And along with that, sometimes the different types of financing have different things that you need to think about. So not only do we need to think about the property itself, but we need to have knowledge about the school districts and the neighborhoods and the amenities around the particular property. At that property, you need to have knowledge about the typical inclusions and things that might be excluded from a transaction. So gaining product knowledge is really another core competency. And how do you do that? You go to a lot of houses, you schedule previews, you schedule showings. The more that you're out with either on your own scheduling previews or working with buyers, the more you're going to learn. That's the best way to learn, is just to get out there and see the product, get a feel for pricing and values. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in order to be competent regarding your product knowledge. But as you gain your experience, I believe that you really will. We all do. As we survive in this business for more than a year, you start to learn some of these things as you're out with your clients. So I think this is definitely a core competency, is product knowledge. And then, of course, we've got the contract to close process. So you've worked really, really hard. You've done all of your marketing. You've acquired your client. Your client has found a property. So now what? Let's flip over to the next slide and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. As you have a client under contract, you become the quarterback of that transaction. There are many, many people that and professionals that you'll be working with in order to get your client from contract to close. So I've got a few of those there. So you've got inspectors and your brokerage and handy person, a lender, an appraiser, a title examiner, a closer, and the co-op agent are all people that you need to make sure are on track in order for your client to close in an efficient and stress-free manner. So it's important as a new agent that you develop your team. All of these people should be people and professionals that you're reaching out to develop relationships with. Depend on your mentor. Here at Minnesota Real Estate Mentors, we can tell you some of the wonderful professionals that we work with, but we encourage you early on in your career to start developing relationships with these professionals because they're the people that are going to take your client from that signed contract to close. And of course, when we close, that's when we collect commission. So it's about the client getting what they want. And then as we help that client get what they want, we get paid through commission at the closing table. So important to develop all of those relationships. And you need to manage all of the process that's happening with all of these professionals. So we'll teach you more in upcoming lessons about that contract to close process, but that's another core competency. As a real estate agent, your title is realtor, but your title could also be interchanged with problem solver because you are a problem solver from the first time you meet a prospect till the time you walk away from the closing table. So think about the problems that a prospect might have. Think about things like someone who's renting and they don't want to rent anymore and they're tired of apartment living. Either that prospect's house might be too big or too small, the commute is too long, there's too much maintenance to do. From the beginning of the relationship, you solve your client's problem. And along with that, there'll be other problems to solve. The inspection report shows mold in the home. The client opened a new credit card right before closing. The wife can't attend closing, so what do we do? The buyer's current home isn't selling. So solving problems is really what you are hired to do in this real estate transaction. So your job as their trusted representative is to be the voice of reason, the calm, the reassuring presence that puts aside emotionality and separates the person from the problem and uses your resources and your contacts to help your client solve their problem. Become good at this and you will have repeat business and referrals as well as achieving your financial goals. The last core competency could be called negotiation or getting to yes. You're going to need to learn the principles of negotiation. There's a few of them here. You're going to need to learn sales techniques. So how do you get someone to say yes? You're also going to need to learn good communication principles, active listening, mirroring and matching and understanding, reading body language. So you studied hard in your pre-licensing courses and learned about the elements of title and all of that. But in practicality, there's a lot more to it. And working with people and the nuances of people is really a core competency in having a successful real estate business. So master the skills. How do you do that? Through training, through mentorship, through experience, and through intentionality of learning all of these things. So that wraps up this lesson of Real Estate 101. And of course, our upcoming lesson is some of the basics you need to get started. So with that, we'll wrap this thing up and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.